Got a sad, sad telegram typed on a paper bag. Got a sad, sad telegram typed on a paper bag. Said, don't you come looking, baby. Sealed with her lips, said, thrive.
Someone with less talent might be ahead of you right now, not because they're better, but because they look sure of themselves. They speak without wobbling. They move like they belong. People follow that kind of certainty. You pause, you rethink, you wait for perfect timing and perfect words. While you wait, a bolder person claims what you could have had. Confidence isn't magic or luck, it's a tool you choose to use. If you refuse it, others will use theirs to pass you. Think of old power courts that writers like Machiavelli described. The decisive often outran the gifted because the world is built to respond to conviction more than to raw skill. This is not about hype, it is about control. Strip hesitation, give your words weight, carry yourself like your presence matters, because it does.
In my great big automobile.
Rain on my window, tapping like your red heel time. Rain on my window, tapping like your red heel time. I open up to shadows, just that hell on 47th line.
You were not born unsure. You were taught to ask for permission. Praise trained you to please. Rules trained you to wait. That training left a voice in your head that keeps you small. It apologizes in advance. It wants to be liked more than it wants to be effective. That is not your true voice. That is the helper who wants approval. If it drives your choices, you will always knock before entering rooms you already have a right to walk into. Flip the pattern. When you feel yourself shrinking, sit taller and take your space. When you want to explain everything, pause and let silence carry some of the load. When an automatic apology rises to your lips, keep steady eye contact and speak plainly. Confidence does not show up first. Action comes first, and confidence follows the action. Move with purpose instead of rush. Stop nodding by default. Drop the softeners that add nothing. Speak as if your sentences are decisions, not drafts. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. Real presence is quiet power. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room. Calm posture, still hands, and unhurried movement send stronger signals than volume ever will. In courts and boardrooms across history, the person who spoke least often held the most sway. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is control, because it keeps your intentions from being read too easily. When you enter a room, stop scanning faces for approval. Observe. Let others rush to prove themselves. You collect information. Move as if time is on your side. Predators do not waste energy until it matters. When you finally speak, make your point sound complete. People begin to adjust themselves to your certainty rather than compete with it. Let others speak first. They will show you what they want and what they fear. You are not chasing energy. You are creating gravity. Words carry meaning, but tone carries rank. People can hear when a voice is seeking permission. The constant hedging, the upward tilt at the end of every sentence, the nervous laugh, that style weakens the message before it lands. Slow your pace. Breathe deeper. Cut filler that protects your feelings instead of adding clarity to your thought. You do not need to shout. You need to sound decided. If someone pushes, there is no need to launch into a long defense. A simple, "I disagree" followed by forward motion tells people you are not negotiating your reality in every moment. Many can look composed until the right insult or the right compliment pulls a hidden string. Then they break. That is not power, that is exposure. Old thinkers worried less about enemies and more about dependency. If people can map your triggers, they can steer you. Your mind should be a gated space. Feel everything. Act only on what serves your aim. From now on, you do not react. You register. An insult becomes information. Praise becomes information. Silence becomes room to operate. This is not numbness. It is discipline. Rejection is not a wound, it is a reading. People turn down what they believe they can live without. If they passed on you, they calculated that your absence costs them little. That is not an injury, that is data. Use it to refine your edge. Do not perform pain for an audience. Step back with intent. Absence reveals value faster than speeches do. Rewrite the story you tell yourself. You were not thrown out. You stepped out of a game that capped your growth. Build quietly. Return only when your results do the talking. Indifference outlasts revenge every time. The deepest change is not in posture or phrasing. It is in identity. You stop being shaped by the approval tides around you and start shaping the conditions around you. Fewer needs, firmer boundaries, steadier choices. That is why you become hard to move and impossible to use. Soon, rejection stops stinging and starts guiding. It shows you what to cut, where to fortify, and whom to ignore. You enter rooms to set direction, not to beg for a seat. You speak in a way that makes careless disagreement expensive. You grow unpredictable to others and consistent to yourself. People cannot provoke you, bait you, or flatter you into losing your frame. They remember you not for theatrics, but for composure. Legends do not announce themselves. They move with clear intent and steady habits. Your change will show without a speech, in your silence, in your pace, in the way you decline what once tempted you. The one who chased becomes the one pursued. The one who asked becomes the one who decides. Not because you were chosen, but because you finally chose yourself. This was never just about confidence. It is about dominion over your mind, your voice, and your presence. You are not here to blend in. You are here to move pieces. Take the tool, use it. Let your certainty set the temperature of every room you enter. The great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once observed that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Yet in this chemical reaction of human encounter, it is often the more catalytic personality, the one projecting greater certainty and self-assurance, that directs the transformation. This essay explores the complex psychology behind this phenomenon, examining how authentic confidence develops, how it differs from mere bravado, and why understanding these dynamics is crucial for anyone seeking to navigate the modern world effectively.
Someone with your left. You left me crying with your suitcase by the door. Now you're gone somewhere. You're so far from home. The truth is, we burned out like a match. Now you're thinking of me or someone from your past.
The psychological foundation of confidence. To understand confidence, we must first distinguish it from its various counterparts and imposters. True confidence, as defined by contemporary psychology, represents a realistic assessment of one's abilities, combined with the courage to act despite uncertainty. It differs markedly from arrogance, which stems from an inflated self-image, and from bravado, which masks underlying insecurity through exaggerated displays of self-assurance. Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the psychological process of integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of the mind to achieve self-realization, provides crucial insight into authentic confidence. Jung argued that true confidence emerges not from denying our weaknesses or fears, but from acknowledging and integrating them into a complete sense of self. This integration creates what he termed psychological wholeness, a state in which individuals no longer need external validation to maintain their sense of identity. The distinction between what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear in social situations, and our authentic self becomes particularly relevant here. Many individuals mistake a well-crafted persona for genuine confidence, leading to what psychologists now recognize as fragile high self-esteem. This fragile confidence crumbles under pressure precisely because it depends on external validation and the maintenance of an idealized self-image. Research in social psychology has consistently demonstrated that individuals who project confidence receive more favorable treatment across virtually every domain of human interaction. The confidence bias documented by behavioral economists shows that we systematically overestimate the competence of confident individuals while underestimating that of those who display uncertainty or self-doubt. This bias exists across cultures and appears to be deeply rooted in our evolutionary psychology. From an evolutionary perspective, confidence likely served as a reliable indicator of competence in ancestral environments. Those who had successfully navigated challenges possessed both the experience and the confidence that naturally flowed from that success. However, in our complex modern world, this heuristic often fails us. The ability to project confidence can be learned and performed independently of actual competence, creating a disconnect that has profound implications for how we select leaders, make hiring decisions, and form social hierarchies.
This heavy hard highway, walking down this heavy hard highway, got my troubles packed up in my suitcase, and they're getting heavier every day. The rain keeps falling on my weary shoulders.
The architecture of presence. Beyond mere confidence lies the more complex phenomenon of presence, that intangible quality that makes certain individuals command attention the moment they enter a room. Presence transcends verbal communication, operating through what psychologists call non-verbal leakage, the unconscious signals we transmit through posture, movement, voice tone, and facial expressions. The philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty's work on embodied cognition provides valuable insight into how presence operates. Merleau-Ponty argued that consciousness is always embodied, meaning our thoughts, emotions, and intentions are inextricably linked to our physical being. This embodied consciousness explains why presence cannot be faked indefinitely. Our bodies inevitably reveal our internal states through micro-expressions, postural changes, and variations in voice quality. Amy Cuddy's research on power posing demonstrated that adopting confident postures can actually increase testosterone levels and decrease cortisol, suggesting a bidirectional relationship between physical bearing and internal confidence. While subsequent studies have refined these findings, the core principle remains. Our physical presentation both reflects and influences our psychological state. The concept of presence also connects to what the ancient Greeks called ethos, the credibility and authority a speaker brings to their message. Aristotle recognized that ethos was not merely about credentials or expertise, but about the speaker's ability to embody the qualities they espoused. This embodiment creates what we might call integrated authority, leadership that flows naturally from the congruence between internal conviction and external presentation. Contemporary neuroscience has begun to unpack the mechanisms underlying presence through research on mirror neurons and social synchrony. When we encounter someone with genuine presence, our brains literally mirror their internal state through unconscious mimicry of their breathing patterns, postural alignment, and vocal rhythms. This neurological synchrony explains why presence feels contagious and why authentic confidence tends to elevate the entire social environment. The philosophy of personal authority. Personal authority, the capacity to influence others through the force of one's character and conviction, rather than through formal position or coercion, has been a subject of philosophical inquiry since antiquity. Lao Tzu's concept of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action, describes a form of influence that operates through being rather than doing. The sage influences others not through force or manipulation, but through embodying the principles they represent. This Eastern perspective contrasts sharply with Western notions of power, which have historically emphasized dominance and control. However, modern leadership theory increasingly recognizes the limitations of coercive power and the superiority of what Joseph Nye termed soft power, the ability to influence others through attraction and persuasion rather than force. The Stoic philosophers, particularly Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, developed perhaps the most comprehensive framework for understanding personal authority in Western thought. Their central insight was that true power lies not in controlling external circumstances, which are largely beyond our influence, but in mastering our responses to those circumstances. This internal locus of control creates what the Stoics called inner citadel, an unassailable core of self-determination that cannot be shaken by external events. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his Meditations while campaigning on the Roman frontier, exemplified this principle. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This Stoic understanding of power differs fundamentally from the dominance-based models that characterize much popular thinking about confidence and authority. Carl Jung's analytical psychology provides another lens through which to understand personal authority. Jung's concept of the shadow, the repressed or denied aspects of personality, suggests that authentic authority requires acknowledging and integrating our darker impulses, rather than projecting them onto others. Leaders who have done this shadow work possess a quality of wholeness that others find compelling precisely because it represents the integration of opposing forces within the personality. The existentialist philosophers, particularly Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, contributed the crucial insight that authentic authority cannot be granted by external sources, but must be claimed through conscious choice. Sartre's concept of radical freedom suggests that in every moment we choose who we become through our actions and attitudes. This existentialist perspective places the responsibility for personal authority squarely on the individual, rejecting both victim mentality and dependence on external validation. The dynamics of social influence. Understanding confidence and presence requires examining how these qualities operate within social systems. Social psychology has identified several key mechanisms through which confident individuals gain and maintain influence. many of which operate below the threshold of conscious awareness. The halo effect, first documented by Edward Thorndike, demonstrates how positive impressions in one area influence perceptions across all areas. Individuals who project confidence in their initial presentation are subsequently perceived as more competent, intelligent, and trustworthy, regardless of objective evidence for these qualities. This cognitive bias explains why first impressions carry such disproportionate weight in human relationships. Robert Cialdini's research on the psychology of persuasion identified 6 key principles that influence human behavior: reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, authority, liking, and scarcity. Confident individuals intuitively understand and utilize these principles, often without conscious awareness of doing so. Their certainty triggers our psychological tendency to defer to perceived authority, while their apparent scarcity, they seem complete in themselves and not in need of approval, activates our desire for what appears limited or exclusive. The phenomenon of emotional contagion explains how confident individuals influence the emotional climate of their environment. Research by Elaine Hatfield and others has shown that emotions spread through groups via unconscious mimicry of facial expressions, vocal patterns, and body language. A genuinely confident person literally elevates the emotional state of those around them, creating a positive feedback loop that reinforces their perceived authority. However, this influence comes with significant ethical implications. The same psychological mechanisms that allow confident individuals to inspire and elevate others can be exploited by those with malicious intent. History provides numerous examples of charismatic leaders who use their presence and certainty to manipulate and harm others. This dark potential underscores the importance of developing what we might call ethical confidence, personal authority grounded in wisdom, compassion, and genuine concern for others' well-being. The shadow side of confidence. No examination of confidence and personal authority would be complete without acknowledging their potential pathologies. Jung's concept of the shadow applies not only to repressed personal characteristics, but to the collective shadow of our cultural ideals. Our cultural celebration of confidence has created blind spots that can lead to significant personal and social dysfunction. Narcissistic personality disorder represents perhaps the most extreme distortion of confidence, characterized by grandiose self-perception, need for constant admiration, and lack of empathy for others. While true narcissists are relatively rare, narcissistic traits have become increasingly common in cultures that emphasize individual achievement and self-promotion over collective well-being and authentic connection. The Dunning-Kruger effect demonstrates how incompetent individuals often display the greatest confidence in their abilities, precisely because their incompetence prevents them from recognizing their limitations. This cognitive bias explains why confidence alone is an unreliable indicator of competence, and why societies that select leaders based primarily on charisma rather than wisdom often suffer from poor governance. Toxic confidence manifests when individuals use their presence and certainty to dominate rather than inspire others. This pseudo-confidence, rooted in insecurity and the need to control, creates environments of fear and submission rather than growth and collaboration. Unlike authentic confidence, which elevates others, toxic confidence diminishes everyone except the person wielding it. The philosopher Hannah Arendt's analysis of totalitarian movements provides insight into how false confidence can be weaponized on a massive scale. Totalitarian leaders often display extreme certainty about their worldview, brooking no doubt or dissent. This absolute confidence, combined with the human tendency to defer to authority, can lead entire populations to abandon critical thinking in favor of following a strong leader, even when that leader's path leads to destruction. These shadow manifestations remind us that confidence, like any powerful tool, can be used constructively or destructively. The key difference lies not in the degree of confidence displayed, but in the values and intentions underlying that confidence. Developing authentic confidence. Given the importance of confidence in human interaction and its potential for both positive and negative impact, the question becomes, how can individuals develop authentic, ethical confidence that serves both their own growth and the greater good? Carl Jung's process of individuation provides a roadmap for developing genuine confidence through self-awareness and integration. This process involves several key stages: recognizing and withdrawing projections, seeing others as they are rather than as extensions of our own psyche, confronting and integrating the shadow, acknowledging our own capacity for darkness, and developing a relationship with what Jung called the self, the archetype of wholeness and meaning. The individuation process is inherently challenging because it requires abandoning the comfortable illusions that protect us from anxiety and uncertainty. However, this confrontation with reality, both internal and external, creates the solid foundation upon which authentic confidence can be built. Unlike false confidence, which depends on maintaining illusions, authentic confidence grows stronger under pressure because it is grounded in truth. Mindfulness meditation, derived from Buddhist psychology but now validated by extensive neuroscientific research, offers practical tools for developing the self-awareness necessary for authentic confidence. Regular meditation practice increases activity in the prefrontal cortex while decreasing reactivity in the amygdala, literally rewiring the brain for greater emotional regulation and clearer thinking. The Stoic practice of negative visualization, imagining the loss of things we value, serves a similar function by building psychological resilience and reducing attachment to external validation. By regularly contemplating potential setbacks and losses, individuals develop the inner strength to maintain their equilibrium, regardless of external circumstances. Exposure therapy, borrowed from behavioral psychology, can be applied to confidence building by gradually exposing oneself to increasingly challenging social and professional situations. Each successful navigation of difficulty builds genuine confidence based on proven competence rather than wishful thinking or self-deception. Perhaps most importantly, developing authentic confidence requires cultivating what the Buddhist tradition calls right intention, ensuring that our pursuit of personal power serves not just our own interests, but contributes to the well-being of others. This ethical framework prevents confidence from devolving into narcissism or manipulation. The neuroscience of certainty. Recent advances in neuroscience have begun to illuminate the biological basis of confidence and its impact on both the individual and those they interact with. Understanding these mechanisms provides valuable insight into why confidence is so influential and how it can be developed more effectively. The neurotransmitter dopamine plays a crucial role in confidence and motivation. Dopamine levels increase when we anticipate reward and decrease when our expectations are not met. Individuals who have experienced repeated success develop higher baseline dopamine levels, creating a biochemical foundation for confidence. However, this same system can be hijacked by substances or behaviors that provide artificial dopamine spikes, leading to the false confidence associated with addiction and manic episodes. The hormone testosterone, long associated with dominance and aggression, also correlates with confidence and leadership behavior. However, the relationship is more complex than initially understood. While testosterone does increase competitive behavior and risk-taking, it also enhances pro-social behavior in situations where such behavior serves to maintain or increase status. This suggests that testosterone's primary function may be to motivate status-seeking behavior rather than aggression per se. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, has an inverse relationship with confidence. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol levels impair decision-making, reduce emotional regulation, and create the anxiety and self-doubt that undermine confidence. This biological reality explains why confidence building must address stress management and overall well-being rather than focusing solely on behavioral techniques. The discovery of mirror neurons has revolutionized our understanding of how confidence spreads between individuals. When we observe someone displaying confident behavior, our mirror neurons fire as if we were performing those actions ourselves. This neural mirroring explains why being around confident people can increase our own confidence, and why confident leaders tend to create confident organizations. Brain imaging studies have shown that confident individuals display greater activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, an area associated with decision-making and emotional regulation. They also show less activity in areas associated with social anxiety and self-doubt. Remarkably, these brain patterns can be altered through training and practice, suggesting that confidence is indeed a skill that can be developed. Cultural variations in confidence expression. While the psychological foundations of confidence appear universal, its expression varies dramatically across cultures, challenging Western assumptions about what confidence looks like and how it should be displayed. Understanding these cultural variations is essential for developing a more nuanced and inclusive understanding of personal authority. In many East Asian cultures, direct displays of confidence are viewed as arrogant and disrespectful, particularly in hierarchical relationships. The Confucian emphasis on humility and deference to authority creates a cultural context where indirect influence and quiet competence are more valued than assertive self-promotion. This cultural difference has led to misunderstandings in cross-cultural business settings, where East Asian professionals may be unfairly perceived as lacking confidence when they are actually demonstrating culturally appropriate behavior. Indigenous cultures often emphasize collective decision-making and consensus building over individual authority. In these contexts, confidence manifests not through personal dominance, but through the ability to facilitate group harmony and guide collective wisdom. The Native American concept of servant leadership exemplifies this approach, where true leaders see themselves as servants of the community rather than its rulers. African Ubuntu philosophy, which emphasizes the interconnectedness of all people, creates a cultural context where confidence is expressed through one's ability to lift others up rather than stand above them. The Ubuntu principle "I am because we are" suggests that individual confidence and success are meaningless without collective well-being. These cultural variations remind us that the Western emphasis on individual assertiveness represents just one approach to personal authority among many. A truly sophisticated understanding of confidence must account for these different expressions and recognize that authentic authority can manifest in multiple forms depending on cultural context. The role of vulnerability in authentic authority. One of the most counterintuitive aspects of authentic confidence is its relationship with vulnerability. Western culture often portrays confidence and vulnerability as opposites, suggesting that admitting uncertainty or showing emotion undermines authority. However, psychological research and cross-cultural analysis reveal that the most compelling leaders often display what researcher Brené Brown calls vulnerable leadership. Brown's extensive research on shame, vulnerability, and courage demonstrates that vulnerability, defined as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, is not the enemy of confidence, but its necessary companion. Leaders who can admit mistakes, acknowledge uncertainty, and show genuine emotion create deeper trust and more sustainable influence than those who maintain a facade of invincibility. The neurobiological basis for this phenomenon lies in our evolved capacity for empathy and social bonding. When leaders display appropriate vulnerability, they activate mirror neurons in their followers, creating emotional connection and psychological safety. This connection forms the foundation for what psychologists call transformational leadership that inspires others to transcend their own self-interest for the good of the organization or cause. Carl Jung's concept of the wounded healer provides additional insight into the relationship between vulnerability and authority. Jung observed that the most effective healers were often those who had experienced and overcome their own suffering. This personal experience of struggle and recovery creates both wisdom and credibility that cannot be faked or learned from books alone. The key distinction is between vulnerability as weakness, being overwhelmed by emotion or uncertainty, and vulnerability as strength, choosing to be open about one's humanity while maintaining the capacity to lead effectively. This distinction requires high emotional intelligence and the ability to regulate one's internal state while remaining authentically human. Confidence in the digital age. The rise of social media and digital communication has fundamentally altered the landscape in which confidence operates, creating new opportunities and challenges for developing and expressing personal authority. Understanding these changes is crucial for anyone seeking to build authentic confidence in the modern world. Social media platforms often reward the appearance of confidence over its substance, creating what psychologists call performative confidence, behavior designed primarily to generate external validation rather than express authentic self-assurance. The constant feedback loop of likes, shares, and comments can create an addiction to external validation that undermines the internal foundation necessary for genuine confidence. The curation possible in digital communication, choosing the best photos, editing posts for maximum impact, presenting only positive experiences, creates opportunities for what psychologists term impression management that far exceed what was possible in face-to-face interaction. While this curation can help individuals build confidence by controlling their self-presentation, it can also create a disconnect between one's online persona and actual experience, leading to imposter syndrome and anxiety. However, digital platforms also create unprecedented opportunities for individuals to find their voice and build influence around their authentic interests and expertise. The democratization of publishing and broadcasting has allowed many people to develop confidence through sharing their knowledge and connecting with like-minded communities, opportunities that would have been unavailable in previous generations. The key to navigating confidence in the digital age lies in maintaining connection to one's authentic self while leveraging the positive aspects of digital platforms. This requires developing what we might call digital wisdom, the ability to use technology in service of genuine growth and connection, rather than allowing it to become a substitute for real-world development and relationships. The ethics of influence. As we develop greater understanding of the psychology of confidence and influence, we must grapple with the ethical implications of this knowledge. The same techniques that can be used to inspire and elevate others can also be employed for manipulation and exploitation. This ethical dimension cannot be treated as an afterthought, but must be integrated into any serious discussion of personal authority. Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative provides one framework for ethical influence. Act only according to that maxim whereby you can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law. Time will that it should become a universal law. Applied to confidence and influence, this principle suggests that we should only use influence techniques that we would want everyone to use, and only in ways that respect the autonomy and dignity of others. The utilitarian perspective, articulated by philosophers like John Stuart Mill, focuses on the consequences of our actions rather than their underlying principles. From this viewpoint, influence is ethical when it produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. This framework requires carefully considering the long-term effects of our influence on both individuals and society. Virtue ethics, tracing back to Aristotle, emphasizes the character of the person wielding influence rather than specific rules or outcomes. From this perspective, ethical influence flows naturally from cultivated virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. A person of good character will naturally use their influence in ways that benefit others, because doing so aligns with their fundamental nature. Perhaps most importantly, ethical influence requires what psychologists call theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have their own thoughts, feelings, and interests that may differ from our own. Influence becomes manipulation when it treats others as objects to be controlled rather than subjects with their own agency and dignity. Practical integration and application. Understanding the psychology of confidence is valuable only insofar as it can be applied to create positive change in our lives and relationships. The integration of these insights requires a systematic approach that addresses both internal development and external expression. The foundation of authentic confidence lies in what psychologists call self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same kindness we would show a good friend. Research by Kristin Neff and others has demonstrated that self-compassion is more predictive of psychological well-being than self-esteem, and unlike self-esteem, it does not require feeling superior to others or maintaining an inflated self-image. Building on this foundation, confidence development requires what we might call reality-based optimism, a clear-eyed assessment of current circumstances combined with genuine hope for improvement. This perspective avoids both the delusion of toxic positivity and the paralysis of pessimistic rumination, instead focusing energy on areas where positive change is actually possible. The practice of conscious competence development involves deliberately seeking out challenges that stretch our abilities while remaining within the realm of what's achievable with effort and persistence. This approach builds genuine confidence based on demonstrated capability, while avoiding both the stagnation of staying within our comfort zone and the discouragement of attempting impossibly difficult tasks. Developing authentic presence requires what mindfulness teachers call embodied awareness, conscious attention to our physical experience in each moment. This awareness allows us to notice and adjust the non-verbal signals we're broadcasting, ensuring alignment between our internal state and external presentation. Perhaps most importantly, sustainable confidence requires what we might call contribution orientation, focusing on how we can serve others rather than what we can get from them. This orientation creates a natural confidence based on the knowledge that we have something valuable to offer, while simultaneously ensuring that our influence serves a purpose beyond our own ego gratification. The future of human authority. As artificial intelligence and automation increasingly handle tasks that once required human judgment and skill, the nature of human authority is evolving. Understanding these changes is crucial for developing confidence and influence that remain relevant in a rapidly changing world. The qualities that will define human authority in the age of AI are precisely those that cannot be automated: emotional intelligence, creative thinking, ethical reasoning, and the ability to inspire and motivate others. These fundamentally human capabilities become more valuable, not less, as machines handle routine cognitive tasks. This shift suggests that future confidence must be grounded less in technical expertise, which can be quickly outdated, and more in wisdom, character, and the ability to navigate complex human dynamics. The leaders of tomorrow will be those who can integrate technological capabilities with human values and social understanding. The democratization of information through the internet has also changed the nature of expertise and authority. In a world where anyone can access vast amounts of information instantly, authority increasingly flows to those who can synthesize knowledge, provide context, and help others make sense of complexity rather than simply possessing rare information. These changes create both challenges and opportunities for developing confidence and influence. While some traditional sources of authority are being eroded, new forms of influence are emerging for those who can adapt to the changing landscape while maintaining their fundamental human qualities. Conclusion: the integrated approach to personal authority. The psychology of confidence and personal authority reveals itself to be far more complex and nuanced than popular culture often suggests. True confidence cannot be faked indefinitely, nor can it be built through superficial techniques alone. Instead, it emerges from the careful integration of self-knowledge, skill development, ethical grounding, and genuine concern for others' well-being. Carl Jung's insight that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves applies directly to confidence. Those who annoy us with their arrogance or manipulative behavior often mirror aspects of our own shadow that we have yet to acknowledge and integrate. Similarly, those who inspire us with their authentic presence demonstrate possibilities for our own development. The path to authentic confidence is not a destination, but a lifelong journey of growth and self-discovery. It requires the courage to face our limitations and fears, the wisdom to distinguish between what we can and cannot control, and the compassion to use our influence in service of something greater than ourselves. As we navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world, the need for ethical, authentic leadership has never been greater. The principles explored in this essay provide a framework for developing the kind of confidence and authority that elevates not just ourselves but everyone we encounter. This is not about domination or manipulation, but about becoming the kind of person others naturally look to for guidance and inspiration. The transformation from reactive to responsive, from needy to self-sufficient, from manipulative to influential, represents one of the most important developmental challenges of adult life. It is a transformation that benefits not just the individual, but ripples outward to affect families, organizations, and entire communities. In a world hungry for authentic leadership and genuine human connection, those who undertake this inner work become beacons of possibility for others. They demonstrate that it is possible to be both strong and kind, both confident and humble, both influential and ethical. In doing so, they create the social conditions necessary for collective flourishing and positive change. The journey toward authentic confidence and ethical influence is not easy, but it is perhaps the most important work any of us can undertake, for in developing these qualities within ourselves, we contribute to the development of a more conscious, compassionate, and capable human civilization.
You stayed all night, Bobby? Don't you like the cereal? Oh, yeah. But it's a little mushy. It's not crisp like the kind my breakfast pals serve Dad and me at home. Your breakfast pals? Sure, they come every morning as soon as I whistle. Watch. I'm Snap. I'm Crackle. I'm Pop. At your service, Bobby.
Oh, yeah? Hey, gang, these guys is muscling in. Let's get 'em. Come on, Mushy.
Hey, let's go, Sobby. These Rice Krispies are swell. Look, they float. Sure, and they're so crisp, it's noisy. Hear it?